Brazil bids farewell to football icon Pelé with a funeral in the Vila Belmiro Stadium in Sao Paulo. Also, Latin American heads of state and leaders praised Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva after swearing in as the new president of Brazil. At least 6 civilians, including patients and medical staff, were killed after Ukrainian armed forces shelled a hospital in the town of Petrovmaisk in the Lugansk People's Republic. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thousands of football fans are saying a final farewell to Brazil football hero and icon Pelé at the home of his former club Santos. The coffin of the 3-time World Cup winner was carried to the arena of the Brazilian club Vila Belmiro Stadium, where he will lie in state for 24 hours. Pelé's casket will be then carried through the streets of Santos to the home of his 100-year-old mother. He will be buried on Tuesday in a private ceremony with only his family present at the Memorial Necropole Ecumenical and Vertical Cemetery in Santos.
It is sad, very sad. It is a very difficult moment. I like the name and the anthem of Santos. I'm not from the world, but the world knows that name. And he's here at this moment and live in this club. And that's what matters for such a great institution. Edson Arantes do Nascimento was important for the planet, for soccer.
We stay in the South American giant. On Sunday, and addressing the nation as president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said that thanks to the political consciousness of the Brazilian society, it was possible for his party to obtain an overwhelming victory at the October 2022 presidential elections.
For the third time, I'm here to this National Congress to thanks to the Brazilian people and the vote of trust you gave it to me. The swear of fidelity according to the Constitution of the Republic, close with the President Geraldo Arcos and the ministers that I know, and the ministers that I know, we're going to work. And thanks for the political conscience of the Brazilian society and democratic party we formed to this large, long, historic campaign. We have victorious, so overwhelming.
The Brazilian head of state also said that he intends to keep the promise he made 20 years ago when he was elected president for the first time to face food insecurity in the nation.
20 years ago, when I was elected president of the first time, close with the Vice President José Alencar, I started the word like change that was only simply and concrete the constitutional precepts to start with the right of a good life without foam, with job and health and education. I said on that occasion that my life will be committed when each Brazilian can eat 3 times per day.
And the Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, swore in the 37 ministers that make up his new cabinet. Among those sworn in is Fernando Haddad, who assumed the position of finance minister, while the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was left in charge of Mauro Vieira, a veteran career diplomat who has already been foreign minister between 2014 and 2016 in the administration of President Dilma Rousseff. After the swearing-in, Lula's cabinet was composed of 11 women and political leaders from 9 parties from a broad spectrum, ranging from the left to the moderate right. And Latin American leaders congratulated the new president of Brazil. This is the case of Cuba's president, Miguel Díaz-Canel, who congratulated and wished Lula and the people of Brazil success and said that the Cuban people have always admired and defended his leadership. Also, Argentina's head of state, Alberto Fernandez, published a video showing the joy of the Brazilian people at the arrival of Lula to power. Fernandez expressed in his Twitter account, "The people of Brazil have succeeded. Now it will be easier to talk about integration in our great homeland. Lula in the place he deserves." On the other hand, the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, said in a brief message, "We are going for a fundamental alliance." The Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro Moros, congratulated Lula and said in his Twitter account, "A new liberating wave is sweeping through the great homeland, opening paths of geopolitical progress for the projects of South American Union. Our embrace to Lula and the Brazilian people." Also, the Chilean president, Gabriel Boric, shared a message in which he said, "Hope, democracy, justice, and dignity for our peoples. With Lula, we go together." Likewise, the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce Catacora, celebrated the event, writing, "Now, yes, the road to Latin American integration is opening wider than ever, so that our people can walk hand in hand towards peace and development with social justice." Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. In a special interview with journalist Ignacio Ramonet, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros spoke about the normalization of relations with Colombia and the economic benefits already being reported from it.
In relation to trade, we have also taken important steps. It is estimated that the balance of trade amounted to over 600 million in the first few months. In the first few months, just 600 million, only at the beginning, and that has great potential for the balance of trade between Colombia and Venezuela. Also, the peace talks were implemented in Venezuela with President Petro's project towards total peace, and we are giving all the support to all the peace initiatives, including the dialogues in Venezuela with the National Liberation Army. In that sense, Venezuela and Colombia are engaged in an embrace of reconciliation between brothers, and that is good news for both countries and for Latin America.
President Maduro also emphasized Venezuela's potential in the energy field and considered a very positive step the recent alliance granted to the oil company Chevron.
Here in Venezuela, we have the largest certified oil reserves in the world. Here in Venezuela, we are certifying the fourth largest gas reserves in the world. Venezuela is an energy power. Nobody can take us out of the world energy equation. We are there. We are founders of OPEC, founders and leaders of OPEC+.
In Bolivia, the acts of violence perpetrated by criminal groups in the eastern department of Santa Cruz continue. This in the context of demonstrations calling for the release of Fernando Camacho, arrested for promoting the 2019 coup d'etat. According to the Bolivian press, violent groups of the Cruceñista Youth Union, the UJZ, set fire to one of the branches of the state-owned Union Bank and again attacked and tried to take over the offices of the Departmental Police Command early on Sunday morning. The clashing groups attacked the police with pyrotechnics and caused destruction in the commercial center of the city. Also, press workers of the media DTV denounced that they were attacked and that their cell phones were stolen. Meanwhile, in Bolivia, a medical board determined that Camacho's health is stable. The General Directorate of Penitentiary Regime issued a statement on Sunday where it said that in view of the ill-mentioned and the ill-intentioned misinformation in the media and social networks about the health condition of prisoner Luis Fernando Camacho, it was agreed to hold a medical board to evaluate the inmate. The medical board, made up of 2 doctors of the Camacho family, conducted a medical assessment of the prisoner and concluded that his health is stable, so he does not need to receive specialized treatment in an external health center. In addition, it was agreed with Camacho's family and the lawyer that a doctor and a nurse will follow up the treatment provided 24 hours a day. Also, a family member will be able to stay overnight in the defendant's cell and will receive food brought by his relatives. And 3 people were murdered in Colombia's department of Cesar on Sunday, the first massacre of 2023 in the country. The nation's Institute for Studies for Development and Peace reported that the event occurred in a night roadside restaurant in the municipality of Rio de Oro. The killing occurred after armed subjects arrived at the place and shot the owner and another man who was with his partner at one of the tables. Another person was seriously injured and wounded in the shooting. And road traffic accidents left at least 200 people dead in El Salvador during the Christmas and New Year holidays. Despite claims by the Ministry of Public Works that accidents in the country dropped by 7.1% in comparison to 2021, the closing of 2022 was deadly. Only during the New Year's Eve celebration, there were 50 road accidents and 8 deaths reported. The Director of Civil Protection, Luis Amaya, detailed that between November 17th and December 31st, more than 200 people died in over 2,000 traffic accidents registered and about 1,300 people were injured. According to experts, if the trend continues, the figures will surpass those from the same period of 2021. And the body of the Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI arrives at St. Peter's Basilica on Monday for lying in state, as tens of thousands of people filed to pay tribute to the Pontiff. Dressed in red and gold liturgical vestments and placed on a simple dais, the Benedict's body was moved in a procession just before dawn through the Vatican gardens from the monastery in a stop in front of the main altar of Christendom's largest church. 2 Swiss guards stood at attention on either side of the body, which bore no papal insignia or regalia. On the eve of the first of 3 days of viewing, Italian security officials had said at least 25,000 to 30,000 people will come on Monday. But around 6 hours after the basilica's doors were opened to the public, Vatican police estimated that about 40,000 had filed the body. Benedict died on Saturday at the age of 95 in the secluded Vatican monastery where he had lived since his shock resignation in 2013. And Croatia arrived in 2023 with 2 historic changes. It joined the Schengen space without borders as the youngest member of the European Union and adopted the euro, thus fulfilling 2 ambitions by becoming more closely linked to Europe. At the Brigana border crossing with neighboring Slovenia, police installed a banner reading "Free Passage," symbolizing the end of border controls. Prime Minister Andrej Plenković declared it a special and historic moment during a ceremony held at the border late on Sunday. He was joined in the celebrations by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who also hailed the occasion as a day for the history books. In Australia, 2 helicopters collided in a tourist hotspot, killing 4 passengers and critically injuring 3 others. One helicopter was apparently taking off and the other landing when they collided near the SeaWorld theme park at the main beach on the World Coast. While one of the vehicles landed safely on a sandbank, the other crashed, losing its windscreen. This resulted in the 3 casualties and the 3 most seriously injured passengers. Australian Transport Safety Bureau Chief Commissioner Angus Mitchell said an investigation into the cause of the crash was underway. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us.
Beginning of what lies ahead.
Welcome back to From the South. In the Donbass, at least 6 civilians, including patients and medical staff, were killed on Sunday after Ukrainian armed forces shelled a hospital in the town of Pervomaisk in the Lugansk People's Republic. The mayor of the city of Pervomaisk, Sergei Kulgain, said that the death toll could rise once the debris was removed. The number of casualties had been confirmed by the deputy medical director of the facility, Tatiana Kolkaeva. Press reports indicate that at the time of the bombing, physicians were performing a surgical operation and that the patient had to be moved to a safe place. The hospital was left in ruins and its surgical units inoperative. At least 3 civilians, including a 3-month-old baby, were wounded. And the Russian government announced its concern over the development of the situation in the self-proclaimed Kosovo. The statement comes after Kosovac Prime Minister Albin Kurti said that the day before that he plans to increase the number of NATO soldiers deployed in order to strengthen peace and security in the whole region. Russian Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko pointed out that the Kosovo authorities are moving towards escalation based on the support of their sponsors, mainly the European Union and Washington. Grushko indicated that all those who influence Pristina's attitude should put pressure on it to renounce its war plans and fulfill the obligations it has assumed. Two young men were shot to death by Israeli troops in Palestine on Monday during a raid in the occupied West Bank area of Jenin. The Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that the Israeli army killed 22-year-old Mohammed Samer Huzai after he was shot in the chest, and 25-year-old Fuad Mahmoud Abed after he was shot in the belly and the thigh. The killings occurred in their village of Kafr Dan, where the villagers confronted the occupation troops who came to demolish 2 Palestinian homes. The Israeli action left also 3 people wounded, one of them critically. 2022 was the deadliest year for Palestinians since 2005, with 224 people killed by Israel. And at least 2 Syrian soldiers were killed and several others wounded on Monday in an Israeli missile strike on Damascus International Airport. The Syrian Ministry of Defense reported that around 2 a.m. local time, Israel launched missile attacks from northeast of Lake Tiberias, targeting Damascus International Airport and its surroundings. The army said 2 soldiers were reportedly killed, 2 others were wounded, and there was material damage without giving more details. Israel is systematically attacking the Syrian territory, despite the numerous denunciations of Damascus before international organizations. In India on Monday, right-wing Hindu groups took to the streets to protest the Jammu after attacks on civilians at Dangri, a remote village in Indian-controlled Kashmir. 2 children were killed and 5 other civilians wounded in a blast on Monday, a day after assailants sprayed bullets towards a row of homes, leaving at least 4 dead. Dangri village is located close to the highly militarized line of control which divides the disputed region between India and Pakistan. Hundreds of people assembled in Dangri to protest the killings, chanting slogans denouncing the attackers. Nearly 3,000 people of the southern city of Jammu also protested the killings. Both India and Pakistan claimed the divided territory of Kashmir, as tens of thousands of civilians, rebels and government forces have been killed in the conflict. In Saudi Arabia, heavy rain flooded roads and properties in the city of Jeddah, which is surrounded by the desert. Al Abarika State TV aired a video on Monday that showed the residents struggling with the floods. Cars were seen stranded due to the surging waters, while streets were immersed and many houses were affected. The National Center of Meteorology issued a report saying that torrential thunder showers accompanied by active winds will be forecast to fall in some parts of Azir, Baja, Makkah and Medina regions. Last year, the government allocated $106 million to upgrade the drainage system in Jeddah. And Malawi has delayed the opening of the public schools in the southern African country's two major cities of Blantyre and Lilongwe to try to slow down a surge in cholera fatalities. According to a Monday report from the Health Ministry, the total number of cases and deaths has accelerated to 17,824 and 595 respectively, since the cases were first reported in March, with the mortality rate increasing to 3.34%. Cholera is an annual problem during Malawi's rainy months from November to March, where the number of fatalities is around 100 a year, but the current outbreak is expected to be the worst yet, with healthcare workers amongst the victims. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.